best way for a father to communicate with his daughter. The bond between a father and a daughter is such that no matter how far they are from each other, it is the beating of the heart that brings them together. From a father to a daughter. It was in the summer of 1928 that Jawaharlal Nehru first decided that despite the distance, he wanted to build a bridge of love and understanding with his daughter Indira. She was in boarding school at that time and lived far away from her family. Nehru knew that if he wanted to reach out to the mind of his daughter and enable her to be exposed to the world beyond the school, he had to communicate with her in the form of letter writing. In the intense and frequent letters that he wrote to Indira, he talked about a wide range of topics, including languages, trade, history, geography, the epics of the world, and science. Indira Gandhi grew up reading her father's letters. After 1930, Nehru went to jail, but he continued writing to his daughter from there. It can be rightly claimed that the noble and intelligent lady Indira Gandhi turned out to be is the result of the open communication lines between a great father and an ever-learning daughter. A glimpse into the epic letters that Jawaharlal Nehru wrote to his daughter Indira Gandhi while he was in jail. In one letter, Nehru tells his daughter that civilization is not a matter of external material evidence but of internal spiritual disposition. Fine buildings, fine paintings, fine books, and everything that is beautiful are certainly signs of civilization, he writes. But an even better sign is a fine man who is unselfish. A man who works for others. A man who works with others. The best of all are men who work for the good of all. For to work together is better than to work alone, and to work together for the common good is best of all, he writes. Shortly after World War I, Nehru writes to his daughter about the issue of civilization versus barbarism. He asks, "Do you think it was very civilized or sensible thing for people to fight with each other or kill each other? If two men fight in the streets, the authority separates them and everybody thinks how silly they are. Then how much sillier it is for great countries to fight each other and kill thousands and millions. It is just like two savages fighting in the jungles. And if the savages are called barbarous, how much more barbarous are the countries that behave in that manner?" He writes thus. Nehru wanted his daughter to step outside of her biases and boundaries, be those ones of geography or of culture, in order to fully understand the world. He wrote thus, "England is only a little island and India, though a big country, is only a small part of the earth. If we want to know something about the story of this world of ours, we must think of all the countries and all the people that have inhabited it, not merely one little country where we may have been born." A lot of people in Europe think that they are very civilized and the people of Asia are quite barbarous. Is this because the people of Europe wear more clothes than the people of Asia in Africa? But clothes depend on the climate. In a cold climate, men wear more clothes than in a hot climate. How can that make them more civilized? In yet another letter, Nehru reminds his daughter that money in and of itself is meaningless. We must remember that money is no good by itself. We must remember that money helps us to get other things that we want. We must remember that money helps us to exchange goods. He writes that some people imagine that money itself is a good and they collect and hoard it instead of using it. Money should be given to people around so that it can be used for the benefit of everyone. When people hoard money, it shows that they do not know how money came to be used and what money really is. In another letter, Nehru traces the origin of trade. Take a piece of foreign cloth that is sold in the bazaar here. The cotton grew in India, it was sent to England. A great factory there cleaned it and made it into yarn and then cotton and then into cloth. This cloth then came back again to India and was sold in the Indian bazaar. It seems rather silly that the cotton that is grown in India had to go all the way to England to be made into cloth and then come back again. He urges his daughter to use clothes made in India because in this way we help the poor who spin and weave. In another letter on the origin of the rich-poor divide, Nehru traces the rise of the Patriarch. Everything in the early days belonged to the whole tribe and not to each member separately. Even the Patriarch had nothing special to himself. As a member of the tribe, he could only have a share like any other member. But he was the organizer and he was supposed to look after the goods and property of the tribe. As his power increased, he began to think that these goods and property were really his own and not the tribe's. Or rather, he thought that he himself, being the leader of the tribe, represented the tribe. So we see how the idea of owning things for oneself began. But as soon as the Patriarch started grabbing at the things belonging to the tribe and calling them his own, we begin to get rich and poor people. In another letter exploring the origin of different races, Nehru dispels the irrational beliefs that lie at the heart of racism by telling Indira the story of how early humans migrated across the earth and developed into different races based on the conditions of the lands they lived in. We find that people's complexions are the result of the climate they live in and has got nothing to do with the worthiness or the goodness or beauty of a person, he told his daughter. Jawaharlal Nehru was very fond of children. It was his love and yearning for children that made Indians celebrate his birthday as Children's Day. He emphasized giving love and affection to children and said that children will make the India of tomorrow. He compared children to the rosebuds in a garden. Nehru's advice to his daughter was never to do anything in secret. He taught her to work and to live in the sun and in the light, to never do anything in the dark, for darkness causes fear, and where there is fear, greatness cannot exist. What better advice can be given to the children of India on Children's Day? Here's wishing every child a very happy Children's Day. May God bless you. Bye-bye.